right now in front of you. You have three very special humans that I will introduce in a second, but before we get started with our presentations for 8th period, day 2 of Writers Week, we have a couple people to thank. So, I want to start by thanking Mr. Anderson and Mrs. Ink. Give them a big round of applause for putting this whole thing together. They're awesome humans that we love and appreciate so much. Your English teachers, thank them all week. This is such a treat for them to help put together. The tech crew, our boosters, especially Friends of Writers Week for helping fund this. Lots of people to thank, but most of all you all, because you helped make this possible. So, without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce, wait, one more thing, I totally forgot. Do you guys like this shirt? You guys like this shirt? Do you want to buy this shirt? If you want to buy this shirt, the Writers Week store is open. It's online. Go to writersweekfhs.com. You can get this shirt, other shirts, sweatshirts, all the kinds of shirts, pocket shirts, like zip-up sweatshirts, all the shirts. So go get your shirts at the Writers Week store. Okay, we've got 3 of my favorite humans up here who are ready to present their stuff. So I'm gonna go, and I'm gonna let them share. Starting with Grant Dawson, one of my work BFFs. Give this guy some love.
Thank you. I have a BFF now. She said so. All right. Hi, everybody. Hi. How are you? Good. It's good to see all of you today. All right. So this is a story about how things were going really well and then things went not so well. I hope you enjoy it. That's the joke. Thank you, Mr. Cavalier. All right. Last August, things were going really, really great. My wife and I celebrated 1 year of marriage. The house, yeah, thank you. 5 people. The house we bought in January was finally starting to feel officially like our home, and this little team called the Cubs was looking promising. I remember entering the school year, looking at my wife and saying, you know, I feel like this year is going to be great. I have a feeling things are going to go well. And you know what? I was right. I have great classes, my students are good human beings, and I was teaching classes that I loved. And then I got a jury summons in the mail. So if you don't know what a jury summons is, you get called to court, you sit for, I didn't do anything wrong, by the way. I did not break the law. You sit for hours, and then they either assign you to a case or you get to go home. When you're an adult, getting your jury summons letter is like the reverse lottery. You're actually pissed when you win. The last time I had a jury summons was when I was in college, about 2 months away from summer break. I found out that you can write a letter asking for a delay in being summoned for a variety of reasons. My English degree was paying off. I cracked my knuckles, and I was hoping, and wrote an impassioned, inspired letter to the state stating, it is vital that I not be summoned to jury duty because my summer job contributes to my college fund. My summer job was as a cashier manager at the Family Aquatic Center in Palatine, Illinois. I'm gonna give it up for the FAC. And the college fund I was talking about was really just money meant for Jimmy John's and cheap beer. But hey, it worked. That was in 2009, 7 years. The state of Illinois forgot about me. No, they didn't. They were waiting. In early September, just when things were going well, life got together in a committee and decided that I needed a heaping, steaming crap sandwich to chew on. They figured I was due. Sitting in the Rolling Meadows courthouse, I was part of a 40-plus person jury selection lineup. 14 at a time who were marched up to face the judge and both teams of attorneys, along with the suspect, with the purpose of figuring out who they wanted on the jury. They asked us the same 15 questions. What's your name? Where do you live? What do you do? Where do you get your news? What do you do for fun? The attorneys looked at us stone-faced, taking copious notes on wrinkled yellow notepads as they listened to this old lady Edna's knitting habits, how Mark is a contractor, and how this woman named Cheryl makes inspirational greeting cards in her free time. That is completely true, it's not made up. Soon enough, it was my turn. I answered every question, praying that the people I said I knew and my job title would disqualify me from being picked. When the defense attorney asked me a follow-up question and smiled, I knew I was screwed. This sentiment was confirmed when I called my friend, who is a lawyer, and I asked him and he asked me if I told them I was a teacher. Well, yeah, I said. You think that that's going to get me picked? Oh, gee, I don't know, he said. You're a young male teacher, you listen to both sides, you're competent, and you're fair. What do you think, you moron? He didn't have to say it that way, but he did. The crime, I found out, occurred just a few blocks from where I grew up as a kid. Here's the thing about jury duty. Most times, you're involved for a day, deciding who's at fault for a fender bender, or who's responsible for hospital bills for a broken toe or something. This is probably a good time to tell you that I was selected to be on a 14-person jury for a double murder. Oh yeah. I had the same thought. What? Since I was involved in something right out of a TV show, I was in this for the long haul. And it was like a TV show sometimes. I've never been in a courtroom before, so the first time I heard, "Objection, Your Honor," I went, oh my God. Did you hear that? They actually say it. Contrary to Law and Order, CSI, and any other crappy detective show on TV, let me tell you something about what really happens. There are objections every minute. Someone didn't have this piece of evidence, or they were leading the witness, or they were basing arguments off things people said in private, on and on and on. I had zero legal experience, but by the end of 2 weeks, I was yelling at the attorneys in my head. Sometimes I beat the attorneys to the punch, thinking to myself, yeah, objection, David, you know for a fact that is hearsay, and you are just waiting until the cross-examination. Or, Caroline, you know you need a foundation for that. Your Honor, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, I think so.
But the second craziest thing about being on jury duty are your fellow jurors. These other 13 random people that you have to solve this case with. Normally, these people would just be fine if I met them on their own. At a library, on the street, at Applebee's, who knows? But here's the thing that they don't tell you about trials. You can't get away from your fellow jurors. You can't escape them. And you don't really know how to talk to each other. You know when teachers try to tell a joke and it doesn't happen or it doesn't work? Happens to me all the time, just like that joke right there. Now magnify that awkward silence by hours. During the trial, we were restricted to the same 2 rooms for 8 hours every day. The courtroom and the jury deliberation room. Sounds fancy, right? Let me throw this at you. You know the side room where the English teachers conference with you on your papers? Imagine a room a bit bigger than that, with 14 people of wildly different levels of intelligence and social tact, migraine-inducing fluorescent lights beaming down at you, with horror movie bathrooms just 5 feet away from you that everyone shared. You heard every gross sound while you sipped your lukewarm coffee. Now, this isn't to say that my fellow jurors were all bad people. When she found out I was a teacher, one woman asked me for insight about her daughter's reading skill. Another guy just wanted to get back to his kids. Another one had to make business calls for a big deal that his publishing company was making. Or there was another teacher who said, and I'm not making this up, I think I'm going to a conference put on by someone from your school. Keith Sorensen? Yeah. And then there are the others, like Vanessa, who confided in me that she still writes all of her younger brother's papers for his high school classes. She's 30 and wants to be a novelist. Or Alvin, a man that came in every day looking like the bus he was riding from the old folks' home to a casino crashed, and he crawled from the wreckage every day. Alvin would frequently doze off during a murder trial. And last but not least, Donna, a woman born and raised in Des Plaines, Illinois, who strangely had a Minnesota accent. Bless you, right there. You're welcome. She looked like Kate McKinnon from SNL, except not funny. She would break uncomfortable silences by talking about her favorite Italian restaurants that no one had ever heard of. And she asked questions like, we've had 2 Bushes as president, right? I couldn't remember. Someone would politely answer her while others turned their heads and had facial expressions somewhere between, is this lady for real? And who farted? This is a ragtag group of jurors just like the gang from Scooby-Doo, but worse. But we had a job to do, a tough job. The trial was built on circumstantial evidence. There was no direct evidence that linked the person to the crime. We had to agree if we could reasonably assume that the person did it. For example, if you saw me walking into the auditorium with a piece of paper and then saw me walk out of the auditorium 15 minutes later with people saying, "Great job, Mr. Dawson, that was awesome, that changed my life, you're a great writer, you're an awesome teacher, I want to be like you." You could reasonably assume I read a Writer's Week. Circumstantial evidence. Do you guys get that?
Yeah.
Donna didn't. Donna did not understand that. When both sides finished presenting their evidence, cross-examined all witnesses, and I got to learn about the psychology of witness testimonies with the guy who was the human version of Grumpy Cat, we entered our what would turn out to be 4.5-hour deliberation. But again, when it came to circumstantial evidence, Donna's train wasn't leaving the station. "There's no evidence," she said, "so that means you didn't do it, right?" Being the educator, I explained it as best I could. "No, Donna, it's circumstantial. Let's say I look around the room, I found a box of donuts. I hold it up. Let's say you saw me walk out of here with a donut in my hand. I come back with no donut. This is in front of 13 adults. You could assume I ate the donut." She stared at me for a few seconds and then declared, "But this isn't about donuts. This is a murder." To cut to the chase, let's zoom to the end. We found the person not guilty based on doubts we had with the evidence. While I was able to go home every night to see my wife and write 2 weeks' worth of sub-plans, my brain was mushy oatmeal. I was there, but not there. When on a trial such as that, your brain requires focus for every second of those 8 hours, because as I had to remind myself every now and then, as I looked at the crime scene photos, evidence, satellite maps of the property, I had someone's life in my hands. 14 of us did. We had to get this right as best we could. This wasn't a TV show. Objections were important. Even the free food, which has turned me off from Papa Severios for life, kept us from being hungry so we could think straight. Anybody work at Papa Severios? Yeah. It's good food, but 2 weeks of it was... Okay. Alright, where was I? Ripping on Severios. Even though I won the crap sandwich lottery, it's important for me to remember on days when I'm taking things for granted, the things I appreciate. I appreciated that 14 people came together, resolved their differences, and made the best decision we could. I appreciated the sun hitting my face in the open air as I walked to my car. I appreciated sitting in traffic. I appreciated how patient and welcoming and hard-working my students were when I came back. I appreciated my wife sitting at our kitchen table when I would get home every night, exhausted, and talking to me about how I was doing, even though my answers were mostly guttural noises, and my eyes were glossed over, similar to when I binge-watched The Walking Dead. Woo! February 12th. And I appreciated that the judge came into the deliberation room when all was said and done, told us we did a good job, and that if we had to make a judgment, he would have ruled the same way we did. And then he said this final line, which was music to my ears. "Well, thank you for your service. You won't be hearing from the state for a while." And I didn't even have to write a letter. Thank you. And next up we have Mrs. Tori Eldridge.
It was a Friday morning, and I was sleeping in my college apartment when I was woken up by the vibrations of a text message underneath my pillow. It was from my sister, telling me to come to the door. I ignored it and closed my eyes to go back to sleep because I had my alarm set up at 9 to get up and study for my finals in the afternoon and home the next day. It was only 6:27, and I was happy that I had at least 2 more hours of no sleep left. Like another text message from her about 3 minutes later, saying the same thing, "Come to the door." I thought this was a joke because I was down in West Lafayette, and she was all the way up in Chicago, and I I thought, there's no way she would have been down here. She would never come down here because it would be a little bit weird. Well, those two same messages alarmed me. So, curiously, I got out of bed and walked down the hallway to the front door, looking through the people, and there she was. She was looking down at the cement, leaning on the iron railing along with my brother Dan, who was staring at the door waiting for someone to open it. I thought, this is definitely weird. Because I wouldn't invite my siblings down to hang out with me, especially not before 7 a.m. on a Friday morning. Surprised, I slowly opened the door and half smiled at them, with my head poking out and asking, what is doing here? I noticed my sister kept on looking down at the ground, while Dan started coming towards me. I began to sense that something was just not right. Then he said, let's go inside. And I obliged by saying, okay, but don't judge the mess. I'm not the only one that's looking here. They didn't respond. So we went inside. And as we were walking in, with my back to them, I'm about halfway down the hallway, passing the kitchen, when my brother places his hand on my shoulder to stop me and get my attention. I turn around and see that his eyes were beginning to tear as he was staring into mine. Standing there, confused and anxious, I asked, what's going on? Mom died. I screamed, what? Looking at him confused and going into shock. I immediately started screaming, not even realizing that my 3 other roommates were still sleeping in their beds. I felt like I didn't even hear those 2 words, but I did. My brother put his arms around me, trying to nestle my head into his shoulder, only to muffle my crying screams. I could not stop. I'm comforted by saying, I know, I'm so sorry. And all I could say is, you're lying. But he wasn't. I became a motherless daughter, and I wasn't prepared for it. I think people have this conception that their mothers are never going to die. They're seen as this immortal figure that is always going to be there to pick up your messes, wipe your tears, and get to your practice center. Never did I think my mother would pass away, would leave this world unexpectedly. Just 5 days before, her and I were shopping with my sister for wedding dresses, where I watched my mother's face gleam with happiness as my sister tried on bridal gowns. Just 3 days before, just 4 days before, she was sitting down at the head of the dinner table with the family talking about what everybody's plans were for the upcoming week. And I remember looking at her that Sunday night from across the table, thinking she was so tired. I just saw it in her face. She passed away in her sleep 3 days later, taking her last breath in the comfort of her own bed, in her own home, where she raised her 6 kids and had been blissfully married to my dad for 35 years. To describe my mother, she was regal. She had an elegance that could make a queen blush, sophistication that was always gracefully present, and wisdom that carried on through the years. With being refined, poised, elegant, beautiful, confident, she was absolutely a queen in her own way. So under the sudden shock of losing her, I was struck with grief. But it soon turned into anger. I was angry at her for leaving this family when we truly needed her to be there. And I was angry at the thought that she still needed to be there for college graduations, marriages, births, grandchildren, and other important milestones, where a mother is truly needed. I question every day, why did you have to die? And I've had this resentment since then, because I never had a good relationship with my mother growing up, especially during my teen years when I had teen angst. I didn't realize back then that there was nothing like a mother's love, but I was just too naive to see it. It wasn't until my college years that we were just getting to the part where we were becoming friends. I felt like I missed out on getting to know my mother as a peer, teacher away. Now, you may all have the same thoughts I had when I was 16. But now that I'm older, I understand where she was coming from. When your mom says, I'm doing what's best for you, or you'll thank me, she means it. You may not realize it now, but the smallest amount of advice and love that your mom gives you will be instilled in your heart, which one day you will use on the people you care about. Trust me. When I look at my students, I want what's best for them because I care about them. And I always try my best to guide my students to do the right thing because it's what my mother wanted me to do. That didn't silence my mother's demands of me because today I will continue her values into my students and my future family. Now I understand the phrase, your mother is always right. But here's what I learned from this experience that I hope you can use if you're coping with a loss. Lesson 1, it's okay to cry. Not a day has gone by in the last 6 years where I have not cried. Whether it's streams of tears rolling down my face or welling up the eyes, I found it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay for others to see you in a vulnerable state. It doesn't make you weak, but it shows that you feel connected to your loved ones. Lesson 2, you're going to think that it's going to be unfair that your loved one isn't here to enjoy the little milestones along with you in your life. It is unfair. But don't worry. They will be there in heart because they are a part of you. It's all the more reason for you to enjoy your happy moments because they would have wanted you to. There are people that do care about you and will support you by surrounding you with comfort. Lesson 3. I have always learned from my mother's death is that you should grow up quickly. Like I said before, with a sudden passing, you're not prepared for it. Even if I knew it was coming, I still don't think I would be prepared for it. But you will look at things with a whole different perspective. This heightened mortality made me mature overnight and take charge of my life because I didn't have a mother to guide me anymore. For me, as a result of guilt and obligation, I have developed a way to see and handle things to satisfy my own mother's desires of me. I always think, what would my mother do? What would my mother say? And what would my mother think? I think it's a way to stay connected to her. Lesson 4. You will experience things that you cannot explain. You may interpret it as a coincidence, but don't ignore them. Take comfort in them, because it is your loved ones reaching out to you in some way to let you know that it's okay, and that they're okay. The last and most important lesson I have learned is say, I love you. I grew up in a family where those 3 words were never even uttered. I knew about them, but we were raised not to reveal emotions in order to not show what we were feeling inside. I suppressed saying, I love you to my family, because I didn't want them to seem, or make me seem weak in front of them. Even though I knew I loved my mother physically, emotionally, and spiritually, I should have affirmed those feelings by saying I love you when I was younger. Ever since April 29, 2011, I thought life is too damn short, and that you should never underestimate the power of those 3 words, because what you're saying is courageous, honest, and worthy of giving to others. So go home today, to your parents, your family, and your friends, and say I love you. So going through this experience, it's made me have a better outlook on life. It made me appreciate my loved ones more. It made me appreciate me more. And it made me into a stronger individual. If there's anything I think my mom really wanted, it's for me to live life and be happy. So, Mom, thank you. I will continue the values you have instilled in me for the future to come. And I love you. Thanks, guys.
kind of fits with the theme of my piece, so I might as well just get it out there. So I'm kind of going with the whole, things are only embarrassing if you let them be embarrassing theme. So this is my 10th year here at Fremd, and I am the kid that cried before every speech I've ever given. So bear with me, okay? Can you hear my voice already? I have my Fitbit on. I can even track my heart rate through this. We're at 90 now. I'll let you know at the end. This is called Encyclopedia of My Ordinary Life. It was one of those realizations about yourself that can only be pointed out to you by another. I'm not exactly sure what had happened, but I likely spilled or broke something or injured myself. I recall hearing my absolutely favorite laugh, my husband's, as he said, "That's the kind of stuff that happens to you." So in the spirit of self-care, I present the benefit of learning how to crawl out from under the anxiety we often use as an excuse to not put ourselves out there. The ability to laugh at yourself. I certainly have not mastered this, and I know I need to work on this, but I'm glad to have made some strides. To quote the great Amy Krauss Rosenthal, author of Encyclopedia of an Ordinary Life, available for sale, "I have not survived against all odds. I have not lived to tell. I have not witnessed the extraordinary. This is my story." Rather than find the beauty in the ordinary, I decided I wanted to take moments that once conjured a knot in my stomach, a rapid heart rate, and my tendency to break out in red splotchy hives, and take away their power. I decided that it really is hella ironic that despite the fact that I am riddled with crippling self-doubt most days, the universe's tendency to right the world whenever I attempt to be confident is actually quite hilarious. This is the beauty of storytelling. You're right to make the voice, the tone, the perspective all your own. So, as an ode to years of anxiety and living to tell the tale, I present selected entries from the Encyclopedia of My Ordinary Life. This first entry is called Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing. I had to switch schools in the middle of elementary school. We could no longer manage the cost of attending a Catholic school like my parents had attended. I was devastated. Change had never been something I handled about. Luckily, getting to go to Florida with my grandparents to visit my cousins was a welcome distraction that summer. One would think that getting to miss the first day of school would be an awesome bonus, but my hardwired anxiety only made starting a new school seem more ominous. I returned home from Florida late that afternoon, finding my neighbor hanging out with my brother. He announced, "Everyone wondered who you were. They saw your desk with your name on it." Yes, I was the talk of the day. I had clout. I was riding high. I entered Mrs. Ewing's fourth grade class the next morning. Stairs followed me to my new desk with my name emblazoned on top. The energy surged through me. I had a sweet Jansport backpack a sixth grader complimented me on, and for the first time in my life, I didn't have to wear a blue plaid jumper and saddle shoes. Google those. Awful. You guys are lucky. You got away without ever having to wear those. Nothing could bring me down. After introductions and what I did on my summer vacation tales, we eased into the curriculum. Mrs. Ewing approached the board to review contractions. I sized up my classmates who went to the board to answer, practicing along with them. "What's the contraction for do not?" "Psh, don't, everybody knows this." "Time to establish the pecking order here at Adelaide E. Stevenson Elementary. This year, I would be both smart and cool." "Okay," Mrs. Ewing stated, "this next one's hard. Who wants to give it a try?" She beamed with excitement as the new girl raised her hand. "Participating on the first day, wow." I approached the board. "Okay, ready?" I nodded, chalk gripped in hand. "What's the contraction for will not?" With hardly a pause, I began to demonstrate my recently acquired cursive. W, I, and now my favorite letter to write, L, L, N, apostrophe, T. In perfect cursive. Only the teachers over 30 recognize that. I thought so. The chalk clanged with satisfaction as I dropped it to the metal tray. I turned around, ready to soak in the praise and admiration of my teacher and peers. The look on Mrs. Ewing's face stopped me cold. What had I done? Was the apostrophe in the wrong spot? You know those moments in movies where everything moves in slow-mo? That was this moment. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. Poor Mrs. Ewing more than earned her paycheck as she stammered and struggled to find a way to make my horrifically wrong answer sound kind of right. Great. I was the new girl who wrote Wilt. This next one is called Unrequited Love. Standing 6 feet tall and 2 years ahead of the boys, Ray Stone, that is his real name, please do not Google him. I probably shouldn't have said that was his real name, but it's just such a great name, right? Ray Stone. Ray Stone was the man of my 7th grade dreams. Never mind the fact that he was still in the same grade as those he exceeded in age. He oozed a confidence and allure that I was instantly drawn to. We met in 9th period PE. I caught his eye during attendance as we sat in alphabetized lines. I would have 2 goals in PE that year, to do as little as possible and never sweat, and maintain a sightline to Ray at all times. As Ray ran down the court, shoving down the prepubescent 7th graders he towered over, I loved the way he adjusted his spiky bangs between each play. Months went by and I still hadn't said a word to him. At home, I continued to distract myself by pestering my younger brothers, who usually wanted nothing to do with me. They had acquired a suction cup basketball hoop at a recent birthday party and were hard at work trying to find something to attach it to in the house. I learned over the years that unless I was doing something that directly benefited my brothers, my presence was pretty much unwelcome. So I joined the quest to find a suitable surface to affix the suction cup. Walls? No. Door frame? Nope. Windows? Blocked by bunk beds? Maybe I can be the hoop. I grabbed the hoop and pressed it to my forehead. To my surprise and delight, I felt it grip. Look! I grabbed a small Nerf basketball and dumped. I had their attention. I did it. We spent the next 30 minutes running around the house, my brothers chasing after the human basketball hoop. Like most parents, Mom was concerned at how much time we were spending together without fighting and came in to check. As she entered, her gasp sucked the air out of the room. "What are you doing?" she exclaimed. "Nothing, we're playing," I defended. I felt her hands on my shoulders, leading me to the bathroom. "Take that off immediately." I was so confused. We were getting along. What was wrong? I went to take the hoop off my forehead and I pulled and pulled. And it pulled back. The science of suction was clearly eluding me. I looked at my mom, finally feeling the weight of her panic in my stomach. She worked her fingernails under that plastic suction cup, slowly releasing the suction. The surface of my once smooth forehead was 3-dimensional. A large red ball protruding. Oh boy, it ached. Panic set in. It's okay, right? Am I okay? Is this okay? What do I do? I laid on the couch that night, swapping one ice pack after the next to lessen the swelling. As my alarm went off the next day, I ran to the mirror to check the progress. Not only was the size the same, but the color had morphed to a bluish purple, with small lines running through it. My mom would later tell me were popped blood vessels. And yes, she said, I would have to go to school. My beloved Ray finally spoke to me that fateful day. What's that thing on your head? This next one is called My 5-Year Cancerversary. Cancer perky, make up words. This month, I celebrate my 5-year cancerversary, aka the feeling anniversary of feeling something weird and finding out it was actually cancer. This is also the reason I can be a little bit of a hypochondriac. As you know, any WebMDing of symptoms inevitably leads you to cancer. After a few up and downs, I am now 2 years cancer-free. As a parting gift, cancer decided to build me an internal heating system in the form of hot flashes and give me the bones of an 8-year-old woman. On the other hand, cancer-induced hot flashes are the greatest way to feed your red mango habit. Jump ahead to this one here. This next one, under the letter H, is called How Not to Go to College. So seniors, juniors, take note. Number 1, fear change and spend senior year proclaiming you will never go to college. Number 2, have breakdown about living with your mother forever. 3, apply to college in March of your senior year. 4, choose out-of-state school you have never visited because some friends are going there. 5, have no money to attend said school. Take out substantial loans through a no credit is good credit provider. Leave college after freshman year for a boy. Number 7, insist to all you did not leave college for a boy. 8, attend Harper with said boy. Number 9, realize said boy is in 3rd year of a 2-year college. Number 10, break up by November. This last one is called #FarmLife. I always win 2 truths and a lie. That was the benefit of my 4 summers as the head and sole day camp counselor at Volkening Heritage Farm, Schaumburg's local 1880s German living history farm. I can cook on a wood stove, I've worn petticoats, I can saddle a draft horse. I have artificially inseminated a cow. That is a story for another day. I bumped into our old neighbor one day after camp had ended. She was alone, her boys running around the grounds. We chatted about our families, what everything was up to now. My mom, dad, Sue, and her husband Pat had been friends. She saw it all unravel before we had moved. My parents' divorce, my dad's bipolar episodes. Now, as a college student, I felt a sense of confidence that I could redeem what she last knew of me. I once again had to tell someone that I was an English major and faced the dreaded question, what are you going to do with your life? I don't know, maybe write? I always liked that. And to this day, I'll never be less shocked by her reply or less unsure of her intent. Well, with your life, you have plenty to write about. For more than 10 years, that line rang in my head, echoing all my insecurities and fears. But the funny thing about